So the foreign sources. Right? So indigenous sources are always supported by the foreign sources you can consider. Right. So the writings of the foreign travelers and the chroniclers provide valuable sources of ancient Indian history. Some of these visited India and some of others have never visited India, but still based on their accounts on information received from the different sources. Right? So as I said, Herodotus. Right? So Herodotus have written something about India. Right? So he hadn't been to India, but he had received some information by some other sources. Right? To India, the people from Greek, right, or the Greek people, then Chinese, right, Tibetan, Arabian, right. So different visitors from these, right, for the purpose of, right, here you can consider visitors, merchants, right, through different purposes, as ambassadors, right, pilgrims, you can consider as historians. And see, these were the things which haven't been happening in those days. Even today, most of these things are being happening, right? Then travelers, right? So had been to India or to our particular territory, and some of them always left behind some of the accounts, right, or the things they saw. So they will be always taking something back to India. So I will tell you one thing. I think maybe in 2008 or 9 story this is. Rajiv Dixit. So most of you must have heard his name, right? So Rajiv Dixit, and there was one professor from Germany, and there had been a debate, right? Whose country is the best? So Rajiv Dixit was strict and confident that India is great than his counterpart's country. And that professor was saying that Germany was great than India. So they decided to have the arguments, right, or the debates on some of the things. So Rajiv Dixit had asked him so many different questions. For example, in your country, is there cane, sugar cane, right? Is there onion, right? Is there palak? Is there some other vegetables, right? So answers of all these questions were no. Fine. So likewise, some of these questions. Then in next round, he asked different questions. So different questions he are asked. Is there in your country, is there bananas, right? And then is there apple, right? Is there santras, right? Again, the answers were no. Then he said, no, ask some other different questions, right? So he had asked about, is there cotton, right? Then again of that category, he could not answer any kind of question. Then he said, okay, what do you have in your country? Tell me, right? Among these. So he said, only we do have potatoes, right? But again, Raju Dixit said that no, that potatoes are not having the taste like the potatoes which are in India. Right? Then he had now his turn to ask the questions. So he was asking the same questions to Rajiv Dixit, right? That do we have sugarcane? So he said, yes, we do have sugarcane, right? And we do have more than 5,000 its types, right? So in India and across India, so we do have more than 500 sugarcane factories in India, right? So, right. So again, in that particular case, he fell down. Fine. So after this debate, he accepted that, yes, now whatever you are saying, according to that, your country is great, but I wanted to be there in India. Dixit said that, okay, come to India. I will make that in all the arrangements of your hospitality, even we will book your ticket. Right? So for how many days you want it to be? He said, I will be coming there for 4 months. So he had been to India. He had gone to so many different villages. And at the time of going back to his country, Raja Dixit, I had asked him, what you are taking back to your country. Then he had showed him 5-6 different diaries, right? And he had noted down so many small things which even we the Indians haven't paid attention to that particular things, right? You know, there are different things which you can consider as far as the cooking is concerned. So there are 5-6 different types of pots you can use for the cooking. Right? So even by changing these pots, you can avoid some of the diseases, or you can cure some of the diseases automatically. Right? So such kinds of so many different details he had taken down, right, with him to his country. So that means what? Either of these he had been, right, and he had taken something away. So whatever Dixit said, right, why we are great, now he witnessed it. So whenever someone will ask him, do you know the greatest country in the world? So obviously he will be saying about India, right? If he could not, he had been to India, then probably he might not say anything about that particular question. So these are the foreign sources which you can consider in, right? So, you know, there are today even there are so many different things which the foreigners are using, and from them we are coming across, right? This would be the better for that, that would be better for that. The best example is haldi, right? तुम्ही हल्दीचा विचार केला तर सो एकट्या अमेरिकेत शेकड्यांच्या वर पेटंट्स आहेत. बेसिकली इट इज ऑफ आर्स ओन. आपण नाही यूज करीत त्याला, राईट? म्हणजे आपल्याला अजूनही जखम झाली त्याच्यावर हळद टाकायला ते कमीपणाच वाटतं, नाही नाही, बट यु नो इट इज द एकदम जालिम उपाय आहे तो. So those who had been to remote locations or in the villages, they must be knowing about this particular thing. There are so many different things. Anyway, so my point here is, right, you will be always considering whatever the literature or whatever the evidences written by the foreigners, and if you compare them with the indigenous, then you will be always getting a certain kind of information which will be definitely enhancing your understanding of the history, right? So here you have Greek writers, here you do have Chinese writers, here you do have the writers from Tibet, here you do have writers from the Arabians, right? So there are different, even Roman Latin writers are there, fine. You can consider again some of the other things in this particular case. And now the most important part comes in, still, right, I can make you convinced, or someone can make someone convinced by saying these things, but still there are some of the things where you never faith on these unless and until you do have certain kind of the scientific support or the scientific answers, right? And you know the best scientific support is through the archaeological sources, and therefore second sources we can go, that is archaeological sources. Archaeological sources, right? So basically here you will be always believing in carbon dating, right? So that is the best scientific theory or technique on which you will be believing most, which comes under this particular category, right? So this is being always considered. You know, after 1750, that is modern era, when archaeological department, right, had been established by Britishers in India, right, then they have undertaken so many different projects, and then they started digging here and there and trying to collect so many different kinds of evidences, and then we came across so many evidences by which we could have studied our own history, right? So that would be the case. So इंग्रजांची ही एक आपल्याला मोठी देणगी आहे, बाकीच्याही आहेत. So you can consider anyway, right? So how the archaeology is always being considered in this place, right? So there was a problem which was solved by James Prinsep, who was a minister of Asiatic Society, and who had been the founding editor of the journal called Asiatic Society, right? By decipherment of the Brahmi script, right? So who could have deciphered Kharosthi script? So the scripts which we have got on different kinds of edicts or epics, or the pillars, right? Or on different kinds of inscriptions which were being deciphered, right? And then we have come across some of the solid sources or evidences of being these different things, right? So in this case, you can consider the Sir Alexander Cunningham, right? So here you can consider Sir Alexander Cunningham, right, who was termed as the father of Indian archaeology. Father of Indian archaeology. And so Sir Alexander Cunningham, so father of Indian archaeology. So his great contribution in the field of Indian archaeology, right? Because of that, he is being considered as the father of Indian archaeology, right? So later on, after Sir Alexander Cunningham, right? Prior to Cunningham, there was the James Prinsep, or the first archaeologist you can consider who had been to India. Or the prior to that, again, the Orientalist, whose name was Sir William Jones, who had founded the Asiatic Society of Bengal, right, in 1784. So as I said, after 1750, so archaeological kinds of surveys are being done, or the sources have been found or discovered. You can consider it, right? Now, in this case, again, here you will be having different kinds of archaeological sources, right? So there are different kinds of archaeological sources, right? So here you will be having a kind of archaeological sources, inscriptions. So very first source you will be considering here is inscriptions. Again, here two types of inscriptions: foreign inscriptions, then indigenous inscriptions. Again, in that indigenous inscriptions, you will be having the Mauryan inscriptions, post-Mauryan inscriptions, right? Then the Gupta period's inscriptions, right? Then the early punchmark coins or the indigenous coins, right? So these are some of the things you will be considering in this case. So here you will be having two things: the foreign and indigenous, right? Foreign and indigenous inscriptions. Second, you can consider coins, right? Second source you can consider is coins, again, which is being divided into the indigenous coins and foreign coins, right? So indigenous and foreign coins, fine. Again, indigenous coins will be having different things. For example, Indo-Bactrian coins, then Gupta coins, right? Kushan coins. You will be coming across these points. Then you will be having third category as monuments, right? So monuments. Again, in monuments, you will be having the foreign monuments, right? In this particular case, right? And what you can, right? So these are the different kinds of archaeological sources, right? So inscriptions, coins, and monuments. So these are the three different things. So whatever may be the time period you will be seeing, which will be always seeing through these point of views, and for the 4 point of views, that is administration, economy, economy, culture, and society, right? So these are the key points of looking any of the period, right, or historical period is concerned, right? And these are different things you will be always coming across, right? So let's begin with now the prehistoric period, right? That is, you can consider from human evolution, right? You will be always looking into, right? So overall here, what I wanted to say you is the studies of histories are being performed with the help of the sources, right? So basically you can have literary sources and archaeological sources. Further, literary sources are having different things in it, and archaeological sources is also having different things in it, right? So the key sub points in archaeological sources are inscriptions, coins, and monuments, right? So from coins you will be coming across, right? So there are some coins, even today there are some coins you can find out on which you will be finding out different things. कधी कधी मक्याचा कणीस एखाद्या कॉइनवर केलेला असेल, किंवा sometimes you will be finding out the statue of the great visionaries of India, right? महाराणा प्रतापांचा कधी शिक्का असू शकतो, शिवाजी महाराजांचा शिक्का असू शकतो, right? So you will be finding out these kinds of different portraits on the coins. Monuments are right, and inscriptions, obviously, right? So with the help of these you can study the history, right, without getting biased, right, or without having your pre-opinion, what you can consider pre-opinion, right? म्हणजे कुठलाही पूर्वग्रह नाही की हे असंच असेल तसंच असेल. No, you will be always finding out the fact and coming across the good things, right? So this is what you can consider as an overview, right? So let's consider the part called prehistoric period. So prehistoric period. So what is the prehistoric period? The time duration 30 lakh BCS to 600 BCS. Here you will be having three different kinds of ages, right? So human evolution. Africa was the original homeland of human. For this particular reason, Africa is called the cradle of the humankind, right? So always consider this point. And there were two different things, two different theories which were in the connection with the human evolution and its development, which are called unitary origin theory and parallel origin theory, right? So by which more thrust, among these, the more thrust is on the first theory, that is unitary origin theory. So what you can consider about unitary origin theory? So according to this theory, the modern human have evolved originally from Homo erectus, right, in Africa, and then by migrating along different routes, they have settled in different regions of the earth, right? Whereas the parallel origin theory says that the modern human have evolved in parallel from several dispersed Homo erectus population of the world, right, at that particular time or the same time. So this is the case you can consider. Fine. Now, what I was saying, this prehistoric period is further divided into different ages, very first age you can consider here is Lithic Age, which is also called as the Stone Age. Right? So here you have the first thing, Lithic Age, which is also called as the Stone Age. Right? I'm just telling you about this particular. So you can consider same time period, 3 lakh BC to now it is about 1000 BC. Right. So you know about early period of human. So according to some of the archaeological evidences, the stone implements were in great amount, right? And that's why this period is called the Stone Age or the Lithic Age, right? So here, why it is called Stone Age or Lithic Age? So stone implements, right? The meaning of implements, hatiyar, right? So stone implements in a great amount. So right, great amount. So and therefore it is called the Lithic Age or the Stone Age. Fine. Now again, if you consider this particular Stone Age, it is divided into different categories, divided into 3 categories or 3 groups. So very first category here you can consider is a Paleolithic Age. Paleolithic Age. Right. So you know what is Paleo. Fine. And then so what I can consider, sorry. So the first one is the Paleolithic Age. You can consider in, then you know what is Paleolithic? So it is nothing but old. Paleo stands for old. Lithic is nothing but the stone. So it is a old stone age. Right? Then second here you can consider is the Mesolithic Age. Mesolithic Age. Right. So you know, Meso stands for the middle, and sorry, this is B. And the last one you can consider here is the Neolithic Age. Neolithic Age. So Neo stands here. Yes, Neo stands here. New stone. Okay. So basically, you have the pre-Lithic period, right? Categorized as Lithic Age, which was further divided into Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic, right? So this is the case you will be always considering as far as the prehistorical part or the prehistoric period is concerned, right? So now again from 30 lakh to 1000, these 3. So accordingly, the Paleolithic will be having certain time, right? So it is a middle stone age, right? Old stone age, and new stands for new, right? Now, in this particular case, okay, if you have finished with it, Okay, let's consider first one, Paleolithic Age. Right. So Paleolithic Age. So for the history you can consider. So Paleo stands for old, right? Lithic stands for stone. So it becomes Old Stone Age. It is a Old Stone Age. So its time period is from 30 lakhs years BC to 10,000 years BC, right? To 10,000 BC years. Now, as far as India's Paleolithic Age is concerned, so who have discovered this Paleolithic Age in India? Whether during Paleolithic Age, was there anything in India? Right. So obviously it must have been discovered by some of the archaeological surveys. Right. So in India, the Paleolithic discovery or Paleolithic Age discovery was done by Robert Bruce. Right. So Robert Bruce have discovered the existence of Paleolithic Age. So what kind of evidences he got? So he got the Paleolithic implement in the form of a hand axe. Maybe a hand axe. So where he got it? He got it in Tamil Nadu. So in Tamil Nadu, he got discovered the hand axe, right, which is made up of the old stone. So the Paleolithic implement, and this discovered that yes, India had Paleolithic age on that particular thing. So again, depending on the stone implements, right, different kinds of stone implements. So earlier, see, this was not a common, and this time period is a huge time period if you consider, right, this one. So on the basis of differences in stone implements, right? So Paleolithic age categorized into three categories. First is lower, which is also called as earlier Paleolithic age, right? So what kind of implements have obtained in this one or have got? So hand axe, then cleaver, right? Here you have a chopper, right? It has no business with the chopper which is flying in sky, right? So its time period you can consider from 30 lakh BC to 1 lakh BC. This is the time period. 80, it is not 80, 30. Fine. Second, right. So difference between the stone implements. So these kinds of implements were there, which was considered as the lower Paleolithic age. Then there was a middle Paleolithic age. Middle Paleolithic age. Middle Paleolithic age, which has a time period from 1 lakh BC years to 40,000 BC years. So what kind of implements were there? So here the implements made up of flake, right? So implements made up of flake, right? And here we can consider the upper, or which is also called as the latter Paleolithic age. So whose time period was from 40,000 years BC to 10,000 years BC. So you have considered 10,000 BC and here 30 lakh BC. So 10,000 to BC is your complete Paleolithic age, right? So here the implements were made of implements, right? Made up of flake and blade. Now see here what I want to tell you, right, apart from the things you have in front of you. So now see, there were only these things which have made the impact, right? Fine. So here you can consider there are some other things which must have happened, but these were the changes which were making the great impact. So you are considering only that. That doesn't mean only these many changes have happened, right? So this is what you can consider. Now see what kind of impact here is, right? So in this particular case, you can think. I think someone had asked what is it? What means flake? Hey, flake is a very what I can say, very small, flat, or a thin piece of something. So it can be stone, it can be metal, but this is, since it is lithic, so it is a stone, right? लहान किंवा एकदम पातळ तुकडा, right? So which you can consider it is as good as a blade. And you know blade, how small and thin it is, fine. So what I was talking, so how these things, how the implements have made the changes or the significant changes, right? So these were the different events which have made the impact, right, or the significant changes in the society or the human life of that particular era, right? So these are called, this is what we are considering about this one. Otherwise someone must be thinking that